Hey, Hi-Fi friends. We are back with another episode of the Hi-Fi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. I am here with the one, the only Rachel Raquelme and the fantastic and fabulous Kayla Fowler. I sounded a little bit like a newscaster right there, didn't I?
You
Welcome,
did.
everyone. It's like my secret dream sometimes, I
I
think. I
need,
would
I
love...
need you to introduce me like that all the time, please. Like, can I
Yeah.
just record that on my phone? And that's my ringtone. It's the fabulous Kayla
Kayla
Fowler.
Feller. That's so funny. I love that. Anyways, we are really, really pumped as we are finishing up the month of July. We've been talking about brokenness and in preschool that we need God's help. And today, our session for the week is I Need God's Hope. We're going to be looking at how God provided for Elijah in 1 Kings 17, 8 through 16. But before we dive in, we always like to start with a fun question that helps you get to know our team, but hopefully will be a fun question that you can also ask leaders, families, kids, whoever you want at your church, because we know that getting to know people helps create connection and belonging, which we love to do in Hi-Fi. So Rachel and Kayla, let me ask you, we are just over halfway through 2026, if you can believe that. What is something that you're looking forward to in the remainder of this year? So August through December, what is something that you're looking forward to?
Well, let me start by saying August is the worst month of the year. It's my hot take of the day.
Wow. Coming in
The worst month
hot.
of the year. You guys, it is the hottest month of the year. There are no like work kind of vacations that happen in the month of August. Like there's no sports that are on, like it's just the worst. It's just the worst. It's just the worst. But
Interesting.
so maybe you disagree. You can tell me what is lovely and wonderful about August. But if you live in the South, I don't know what that could be because it's the hottest month. It's terrible. But something I'm looking forward to this year. I love the fall. And this fall I am planning a trip to Idaho. So if you were in Idaho or around Idaho, I would love some tips. But I just love being in nature and creation, and I'm excited about seeing some sights that are out there. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Hmm.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to potentially graduating. I've been working on a degree
Yay!
plan for what feels like my whole adult life, but that's not true. And if I can get a couple big things checked off in the summer, then that unlocks me to graduate at Christmas. And so that would be such a gift. Not 100% certain, but I am just the hope of it is keeping me going.
Awesome. Awesome.
Very exciting.
Let's see. I have two things. Number one, I'm going on a retreat to Hawaii in November, and I'll actually be going right after my birthday, and I'm super excited about that. And my mom, as an early, very early Christmas / my birthday present, bought my plane tickets for said Hawaii trip, and she went all out and got me first class. And so not only am I looking forward to the retreat, I am also looking forward to that bougie plane ride. And the other thing, it's something that I'm not looking forward to, but I'm looking forward to the results, if that makes sense. My youngest son is going to start driving in the fall. And if you have never taught somebody to drive, it is the most terrifying thing in the world. I've done it with 2 kids already. This will be my last one. And I'm dreading teaching him to drive, but I'm so excited for when he learns to drive and can drive himself, because I feel like that is going to free up a lot of time for me. So yes, that is what I'm looking forward to. Well, the reason why we asked that question and how it connects is that when we look forward to things that are going to happen, we tend to call it, like we say, oh, I hope that this is great. I hope that it is wonderful. And well, that is, like, I guess language wise, fine. When it comes to talking about specifically God's hope, we want to make a clear distinction between that, because God's hope is trusting that something good will happen because God has promised it and because God will bring it about. It's not wishing, it's not wanting, it's not crossing our fingers and just really wanting the best thing possible. It is a hope that we just trust and know God is going to come through in a great way. And so that is what we are talking about this week, is that we need God's hope. So, Kayla, I would love to just start with you. The story is from 1 Kings 17, 8 through 16. And just explain the Bible story a little bit and how we are actually focusing a lot on Elijah, which is not normally how this story is taught. So break it down for us, Kayla, as only you can, because you're fabulous.
Yeah. So, listeners, this Bible story from First Kings, it's such a great passage of scripture. So I really encourage you to go read it for yourselves before, if you have the time for it. But this is about Elijah, and Elijah has so many cool stories in the
He
Bible.
does, yeah.
He just has some really good ones. And this week we get to teach about how God provided for Elijah. And so, just to set the scene a little bit, Elijah is this prophet, and he is struggling because there's a famine. Now, granted, all the people are struggling because there is a famine. But God had been uniquely providing for Elijah. And he was in this place, and he was provided water, and he was provided food. And then the creek dried up, basically. And so he didn't have any, he didn't have any more sustenance. And in that time, I can only imagine, like, being in the wilderness, there's no food, there's no water, just the desperation and the need that is there. And so God comes to Elijah. He calls him to go to Zarephath, and God said, I will provide for you there. So
Mm.
Elijah arrives, he meets this widow, and Elijah calls out to her and says, hey, can you bring me some water? And also, can you bring me some food? And then you have the widow who's like, dude, there's a famine here. I don't know if you've noticed. We are all in need. And so Elijah says, don't be afraid. Do this thing. Make, a little flour, a little oil, prepare this for me, and God will also provide for you as well. And so as we unfold the story, we see the provision of God for Elijah, and then also for this woman and her son. But the
Mm-hmm.
primary reason the woman and her son received this provision was through the blessing of God to Elijah. And
Mm-hmm.
so as we unpack this story, we're able to see God's direct provision to the specific need that Elijah had. And we see the overflow of the abundance of God's provision to the widow and to her son because of Elijah. And so, as we talk about this story, we're able to see that Elijah had hope in God. We see Elijah's hope in God in a very tangible way. He actually depended on the Lord for his next
Mm.
meal. He actually depended on the Lord for his next drink of water. And so there is a big need for Elijah and for all of the people who are around him because of this famine. And we see how Elijah had hope in God and how God provided for him in the moment that he needed and when he needed it.
Great explanation of the story, Kayla. Thank you. And it's neat because obviously this is a very specific example of God coming through for someone. We know that the preschoolers and kids in our room will not, probably not. I'd be very surprised if they ever did find themselves in the same situation that Elijah did, or that the widow and her son did. However, they are growing up in a world that is filled with brokenness. That famine was a direct result of brokenness in the world at the time. It was punishment for a very wicked king. And that is where I think it is so cool that we get to help kids and preschoolers make that connection between here's what happened in the Bible and here is how we can apply it to our lives now. So, Rachel, let me ask you, how can God's hope and this story of God's hope help preschoolers and kids who are struggling with their own brokenness and the brokenness that they're surrounded by in our world?
Yeah. I think as we talk about the story of Elijah, and as we talk about um, this main idea that I need God's hope, we can talk about how we do live in a world that's broken, and
Mm-hmm.
that brokenness in the world affects us in so many different ways, and how we are broken and we need God's salvation. And that is part of God's hope. You know, that hope from God that we can be forgiven and that we can be in a relationship or have a friendship with God. And that is such a foundational, incredible hope as we think about our own brokenness and our own sin. And then as we think about and talk to our preschoolers and kids about the brokenness in the world and the way we see that brokenness affect us in many, many ways and in many aspects of our lives, we can talk to them about how we can have God's hope, that we can know that God sees us in our broken world.
Mm-hmm.
He sees us in our need. He cares for us and he loves us, and that we can hope in God, because nothing that's happening in our world, nothing that's happening in our lives is missed by him. He
Yeah.
sees it and he knows and he's there. And we can remind them that they may not have the same need as Elijah in the way he does, but they may have hunger and they may have thirst and they may have these physical needs that they're feeling desperate for them to be met.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we can know that we can hope in God and we can trust in God to meet those needs in a tangible way.
Yeah.
Um, and we can hope in God to even work through his people to meet those
Mm-hmm.
needs in a tangible way. And so I think as we talk about struggling with our own brokenness and the impact the brokenness of the world has on each one of us, God's hope is foundational in that, to know that we're not alone in it. God sees us and he's with us, and we can hope in him to meet our needs and to be with
Yeah.
us when we hurt.
It's kind of funny. I don't know. I guess I kind of think of hope as, I'm a real metaphorical thinker, picture thinker. Um, think about hope like a life ring or of a round floaty. It's great to have on a sunny day when you are floating in a pool and just relaxing and resting in God and trusting him. Life is good. And you're just looking forward to all that God has. But it's also wonderful and helpful in the midst of a storm. It
Yeah.
keeps you afloat. It lets you know that you will be okay, even though it's really hard right now. You will be okay because of who God is. You can have hope and you can trust him. And so that's just what came to mind. I'm picturing little Elijah floating on a pool, and then I'm picturing him bobbing in the ocean in a storm. So, but let's end, since hope is such a thing that can bring joy in the midst of brokenness, that can bring help in the midst of brokenness. How can hope be a help when we are serving in kids ministry? Everybody listening to this serves in some capacity in kids ministry. We all help and serve in kids ministry. How can hope help when we're doing that?
I love that question because it just speaks to the nature and the truthfulness of how kids ministry can be hard, preschool ministry can be hard, and we need hope in those situations. And in the midst of just feeling the weariness, maybe of the week over week things, or
Mm,
feeling the struggles that your preschooler is carrying because there may be hard things happening at home or big changes coming up. But hope can be a help because it reminds us and points us to God. Is
yeah.
kind of the most obvious one, right? So like, but it helps us admit our need for God.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that in and of itself is really helpful. That in and of itself is really freeing when we're able
Yeah.
to say, I need help. Now, that's not
Mm-hmm.
easy. I can tell you, as a recovering perfectionist who wants to do it all myself and doesn't want to ask for help. Listeners, these ladies are laughing because they know that is all too well not true. Yeah. Anyway, but being a little vulnerable on the podcast today, but we need help. We
Yeah.
need to asking for help is really hard. But when we do ask, we're one, admitting to ourselves that we're not all sufficient, that we are not the ones that hold all things together, that it's the Lord who holds that together. We're surrendering our desire and will for whatever the outcome we want to be, to truly trusting the Lord with it. And we are allowing other people to walk with us side by side in the help that we need. And so that hopefulness becomes helpfulness when we're able to admit our need for that help, and we're able to surrender our desires and will to the Lord. And then we're also able to invite others in to provide encouragement, to provide hope, to know that we don't have to walk this road alone.
Yeah.
That's so good, Kayla. I was trying to put myself in the shoes of leaders who may be listening right now, thinking about how, we're right here at the end of July, and they may be coming down from a really big summer. They may be starting to feel elements of burnout from everything that's been on the calendar. And they may be thinking, oh, now I've got to start looking towards school in the new year. And do I have the energy for that? And just thinking, I've been there and I've felt those things in children's ministry. And just to remind them, like you said, that we can have hope. We can know that no matter what's going on week over week in our Sunday morning ministries, in any extra things that we may be leading, that God will provide, that we can hope in him. We can hope in him for energy. We can hope in him for just that spiritual sustenance that we need to continue on. And he will provide, just as a reminder to know with confidence that no matter what's coming up on your schedule, or no matter what may be that you may be getting ready to do, that he will provide. It may not be in the way you're picturing it. It may not be in the way you think, oh, this would be best case, for these things. It may be different in how he provides, but we can know, we can hope in him, no matter what season of ministry we're in. If we're in a really high because of just incredible things that have happened this summer, or a low of feeling just exhausted, that we can know God will provide, and we can hope in him to meet those needs.
Amen. Yeah. And the only thing that I would add too is that we can have hope that God is the one that's working in the lives of the kids that we serve. It can be draining. It can be frustrating to feel like we pour out and give and give and give, and we're not seeing the results, but we trust and we have hope that we are sowing seeds, that we are doing God's work. It's a long game, but every single one of us is here because someone invested in our lives. And we're doing the same thing for the preschoolers and the kids that we work with. And so there is great hope that God is working when we cannot see it, when we do not know it, but we can know that it's happening. So thank you so much for joining us this week. We are really looking forward to all that God will do through getting to teach this week and serve and learn together with preschoolers and kids. This is the last week in July, which means that next week is going to be beginning Kayla's least favorite month of the year, August. But listeners, you will love what is coming up in August. And we get to talk about the fact that God has a plan and a purpose for the lives of the preschoolers and kids that you lead. And so preschooler, the big deal is follow the leader. God has a plan for me. And kids, our simple truth is I am designed for a purpose. And the theme is next up. Bringing a little more TV announcer there. Next up, we've got I am designed for a purpose. And so it's going to be a great, great month in August. And we hope that you are planned, that you are ready, and that you will tune in next week as we get ready to launch that new truth. And until then, enjoy creating real connection and true belonging at the churches that you serve.